Hello there everybody, my name is Gerdude, here today with a mini episode of sorts of the Making Titanfall 3 series I've recently started doing, where I talk about what I'd like to see in Titanfall 3, also usually including your comments, but this is just going to be a quick addressing of the previous one I did. This is not like a full episode, I guess, but anyways, a couple weeks ago I made a video in the series titled Titanfall 3 DLC, How Will It Work? In that video, I discussed that I was not super impressed with all of the general multiplayer DLC maps being remasters, with the exception of one map, Glitch. My guess as to why this was is that Respawn promised free DLC before the game released, which included maps. Then, once the game came out, sales were less than hoped, so the budget was likely minimized, resulting in us getting these remasters instead of original maps, which would have taken a lot more resources, both financially and also just work-wise, the work power, I guess, manpower behind the game's maps. So once again, I'm so glad Respawn brought us frequent content releases throughout 2017, but deep down, I really would have preferred original maps. If you haven't seen that video, by the way, pause this one, check that out, and then come back here, as I'm not going to be explaining everything I said in that video. There was a lot more than to just this one topic I'm talking about here, which is loot boxes. I'm explaining those thoroughly to address where I mentioned I would personally be fine with loot boxes in Titanfall 3. So we don't have to pay for DLC content as it splits up the player base, and that practice seems to be dying, at least for FPS multiplayer maps. Yeah, it really doesn't seem to be a thing anymore, with like the exception of Call of Duty. As Respawn and EA are businesses, they need to make money. I never said I'd love to see this, but trying to think from EA's perspective, they need to make money for their games they invest millions of dollars into. Perhaps if Titanfall 2 sold better, they could have brought us original maps while doing the whole system they did in Titanfall 2, bringing us paid cosmetic DLC in the way that they did. My whole point, though, with loot boxes is that let's say Titanfall 3 does sell poorly, which hopefully it won't. I'm just saying worst case scenario here, to help make money, to also support original maps instead of more remasters. This was why I mentioned this. One game that I forgot to consider and mention is Fortnite. Their model is you can buy currency for emotes, player skins, back bling, harvesting tool, and glider. However, the DLC store cycles out every few days. This, in my opinion, is a great model, as it incentivizes players to purchase these skins before they go from the store, because they may not return ever again. Having an exclusive skin that was only sold for a couple of days makes you a cool kid in class, is what I've heard on the streets at least. Me personally, with Titanfall 2, I did purchase, I believe, every piece of paid DLC, as I want to support Respawn, and I did. I just think having the incentive for more casual players to buy DLC could be increased to help make money for them, so we can see better DLC all around. That was my whole point. No, I'm not super excited for the possibility of loot boxes, but it just seems to be a practice that EA implements often, and it's because it makes money. People want a certain item, and they'll try to get them any way they can, and that may be hitting up the loot boxes multiple times to try to get one item. Once again, I'll say I do think the Fortnite model is a lot better for us as players, as we can choose to buy exactly what we want, and that is what I support the most. Or the Titanfall 2 method of permanently bringing cosmetic DLC that is always available to buy. Well, actually I believe there was one DLC drop where some of it was exclusively sold for a month and now it's not available. Maybe they were testing this, seeing if exclusivity actually helps sell more. Anyways, I just think that exclusiveness helps with DLC sales as a whole to push them once again. If they don't come back, you're like, well, I really like this, I want to get it now, I may not be able to get it in the future, so then you buy it. Anyways, I just wanted to expand and clarify these thoughts. Believe me, I'm not jumping up and down for loot boxes, but to me, and I still do stand by this, it's not the end of the world if that were to be a thing, but in exchange for better large DLC pieces such as new original maps, new original weapons, new titans, just everything else besides cosmetic, which is just camos and skins and making your titan look different. That's all cosmetic stuff if you don't, for some reason, don't know what that word means. I just don't think it's a horrible practice if it's just cosmetic, and if you're not able to sell them like CSGO, then it's fine with me, because if you do get to that point though, that crosses the line of being gambling, and I don't support gambling at all. But if it's just for in-game things you can just buy and you can't sell later. Anyways, I'm just saying, I want original DLC maps. That's really why I mentioned all of this in the first place. Money needs to come from somewhere. Hopefully sales are great in Titanfall 3 and they can bring us original maps regardless of if they need to implement a system like this. But I was just saying, in the case of where this would need to be a thing, loot boxes, I wouldn't like stop playing the game because of it. That's really it. That's my whole point. once again, I'm not saying please bring loot boxes. I just wanted to make this video to get that point across because I don't want that to be what people think. My stance is on this subject, which it isn't at all. And I know a lot of you probably don't think it is, as, I mean, there still was a large majority of likes. It was just a larger of amount of dislikes, the ratio than I'm used to, I guess. I'm adding this while editing the video. I want to shout out Tony Mo's video titled Titanfall 3 Microtransactions Done Right or Wrong, where he makes the points about how Battlefield 5 is doing away with Battlefield Premium, which I was aware of, but also they won't have loot boxes. Which, okay, if this is the case and EA seems to be willing to move away from the loot box model, perhaps I shouldn't have mentioned the dreaded word at all. I was not aware that Battlefield 5 will not have loot boxes, and also as Tony mentioned, this is likely in response to Star Wars Battlefront 2 and the awful loot box system that was originally planned for that title. However, in Star Wars Battlefront 2, it did have gameplay affecting items, instead of it just being strictly cosmetic. Anyways, with Battlefield 5 not having loot boxes, this very likely means EA won't force Respawn to include them. And also, I still do believe that Respawn has full control like they've claimed they do. I don't know why they would lie about that. I mean, I guess things like loot boxes perhaps couldn't quite fall under that, and they're more talking about gameplay stuff. But I really do think Respawn still does have the reins overall with Titanfall 3, and I don't think EA will be invading, so to say. They won't be affecting too much of the final outcome for Titanfall 3 besides just trying to help them and to make the game the best for us, at least is what I'm hoping, and I mean I do believe it to a large extent. And with this all in mind, I now fully think the Fortnite model of selling items for just a few days is ideal. Also, I watched the Tony Mo video just right now, after I wrote and recorded both of these videos, so once again, just while editing this, I thought about Tony's video and hadn't watched it, so I checked it out, and it's looking like the future of Titanfall is great in regards to being loot box free, which one final time I was never advocating for. I'll talk to you all in about a week with the next full video of the series talking about pilot weapons. And as I said, I just wanted to respond to a good chunk of the comments on the previous video in the series, and also the amount of dislikes. It was pretty high compared to most videos of mine. My name is Jaredude. Thank you all for watching. Have yourself a fantastic rest of your day. Goodbye.